guys, I'm Cody.
And I'm Ian. Today we're going to talk to you guys about the deadlift.
So the deadlift, one of the best movements you could possibly do. It works over 90% of the muscles you have on your body when you perform the movement. But I know what you're thinking. You're like, Cody, the deadlift, you say it's got all these great benefits. But when I do it, it hurts my back. I don't feel good. The deadlift's probably one of the most common messed up exercises. There's a lot of mistakes that can go wrong in the deadlift. So today we're just going to kind of walk you through the lift, show you some tips to do it correctly, work the right muscles when you're doing the movement, and hopefully not get hurt.
You need to be good at this movement because all the time you'll hear people like they get hurt picking up a bag of dog food or picking something up. So if you can master this movement, longevity wise, you're going to be able to benefit. So you're going to be able to live a longer, healthier, and happier life. So super important, not just for weightlifters or bodybuilders or anything, but for the everyday person. If you can learn this, you're going to have a lot of benefits.
Alright guys, going into the setup. If you don't set up right for the deadlift, you're already messed up and you're not going to be successful in the movement. The first thing you want, make sure you got proper footwear. Ian's in socks. You want something that's flat, so like Chuck Taylors, lifting in your socks. The worst thing that you could possibly have is tennis shoes when doing the deadlift. Thinking about lifting on a mattress or like something squishy, that's what a tennis shoe is made for. It's made for impact. We want a nice surface area, so the flatter the better. Coming into it, you want to get close to the bar with your feet, and your feet, you want to have about a vertical jump. So think where you were going to jump up and explode. Where would you be most explosive at? That's about the width that you can have. You might be at a little bit wider, or you might be a little bit tighter than there, but it's just kind of a starting point to find out where you're at. Coming into it, you want to split the bar with your foot. People, they mix up, they forget about the heel. You want to go right in the middle of that whole shoe. So right there is where the bar is going to be over.
When you're getting ready to come down to the bar, first thing you got to think about is your hands. So you want to be as efficient as you can. So you want your hands coming straight down from your shoulders so you don't have to lift the bar as far. Think if my hands are all the way out here, how much further I have to move the bar and how much less effective I'm going to be with the lift. So you want your hands to come straight down from your shoulders. When you're descending down to the bar, you want to try and keep your shins perpendicular to the floor. So don't let your knees bend forward. You want to hinge down into it. What you don't want to do is squat down. So I don't want to see you squat down to come get to the bar. What you got to do is you got to hinge. So you're moving your hips back as far as you can, trying to keep your back flat, and you're moving your hands about shoulder width. After you get your hands on the bar, then this is where you can tuck your hips down like you're playing tug of war to bring your shins to the bar. From here, you have to make sure that you retract your shoulder blades. So you're not letting your upper back round over. You got to keep your upper back tight. So think about pulling your shoulder blades back together so you're staying tight all throughout your back.
Coming back into it, now that Ian's in that perfect starting spot, getting breath and staying tight in your core is huge. A lot of people when they lift, they actually suck their stomachs in. It's almost the opposite thing you want to do. You want to push it out. So you want a Valsalva maneuver. What a Valsalva is you take a big breath in, push your stomach out, so like almost think like someone's gonna punch you in the stomach, so you want a hard brace, and then you stick the tongue to the roof of your mouth. You're gonna wanna hold this throughout the whole movement from the start. So Ian's gonna get down in that good stance.
So the bar's cutting my feet in half. I'm trying to hinge back into it. I'm not trying to squat back into it. I'm bringing my hands straight down from my shoulders, so just shoulder width apart, coming back down into it, and then I tuck myself down into the bar. This is where I get my big breath, get my shoulders retracted. So,
all right, from here, go ahead, stand up, Ian. I don't want to have you faint. So going from here, there's a lot of good pullers that make this mistake. Like there's Olympic world-class pullers that make the mistake. They don't take the slack out of the bar. If you're real close, if you can hear real close, there's slack in the bar and there's movement. One of my favorite saying is take the slack out of the bar, or the bar's gonna take the slack out of you. So you almost wanna pull that bar tight and hear that click when you retract those shoulder blades back. So Ian's gonna go right back into it.
So before I move that bar off the ground, I use that brace and I use those shoulder retractions to pull myself tight into the bar. So taking my big breath, pull the shoulders back.
And now Ian's in a really great place to make an awesome pull. From here, if you've ever used a leg press machine, like at a normal gym where you're just driving it, that's all Ian's gonna do. So this is where the people call the deadlift a pull. People try to use their upper body and almost pull it off the ground. You're pressing the floor away with your body. Think you can like jam a hole in the floor, you're pushing so hard. So Ian's gonna get in that good position. And now he's just driving those legs, staying tight, bringing the hips forward. And another thing, you see Ian kept the bar as close to his body throughout the whole movement. Think about a long pole. The longer that pole is, the heavier the pole seems like it weighs. So if Ian can keep the weight tight, he's gonna have a good stable core.
So that, me keeping the weight close to me is what's gonna make me more efficient. So if you're more efficient, long term you're gonna have more results or more benefit from it, and it's gonna be safer. So people hurt themselves because of just that. If you don't keep the weight close to your body, you're putting yourself at a risk of injury. Also, if you know, when I put the weight down, I wasn't slowly controlling the weight down, because that is one of the most common places where people get injured. They're like, oh, you have to control the weight. The deadlift is a concentric movement, so we got one direction that we're moving. That's not actually part of the lift on the way down. So you want to let it down fast. You don't want to try and control it, because that puts a lot of pressure. It can be a good place to get yourself injured. So there are a lot of mistakes that we see pretty common. You got to make sure you avoid these. It can be really easy for this to become a detrimental movement instead of one of the best things you can do. A big one is people are trying to pull all this weight up off the floor. So instead of pulling themselves in that nice tight spot, they end up trying to yank the weight. So what that looks like is they'll come down into it, they'll try and get their force going, and instead of pulling that slack that's in their out, they'll yank themselves up into the bar. And what you see happens is I could be in a great spot, and it pulls me up out of my spot.
The next mistake is common, is that people will actually shoot their butt up before the movement, and they end up lifting all the weight with that lower back. So we're gonna have Ian right from the side. He's gonna show what like that, shooting the butt up looks from the first movement. So go ahead, Ian.
So people do this when they squat down into the lift. So you have to have your scapula over the bar, otherwise the bar isn't gonna move. So if you try and start too far back or squatted down into it, the first thing that happens when I go to try and lift this is my scapula is gonna come up over the bar, and then what'll happen is if you over accentuate that, then you get your butt shooting up into the air.
Go ahead, show him a good movement just from the side, just so you can see what a deadlift really should look like. So Ian's really gonna drive through his hamstring and his glutes and push that instead of popping that butt up. Alright guys, so that's, took you through the basics of the deadlift. Start with lightweight and then work your way up. If you're running into any of those problems with your back rounded and shooting the hips, it's probably because you're not quite there with your strength to move the weight yet. So don't worry about backing the weight down. You're gonna be a lot better off with good form and doing it right. So Ian, if you guys didn't know, he's the Illinois drug-free state record holder for his division. He's gonna show you guys one more good movement, how it's really done, and then go ahead, practice it. You're gonna be so much better off from adding this lift into your workout program. Here we go. Pretty good deadlift. Thanks for taking the time to watch, guys. Follow us on social media. Don't forget to hit subscribe, and have an awesome day.
Don't be scared to do the deadlift. We know that we've been talking about a lot of the things people might do wrong or the ways you might hurt yourself. Just make sure that you're doing it with confidence. So take a lot of time. Make sure you're getting it right. If you know somebody that can do it right, try and go out for help with it. Don't be scared of doing the deadlift. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.